So maybe I'm being too harsh, and I'll readily admit that. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but I do not think, and I'm actually going to title this video sarcastically, like, I'm wondering what in the world, how in the world people ever paid for funeral costs before GoFundMe came into existence. There are certain instances where I think GoFundMe is great, you know. Like, around here, well, not when I say around here, it was like somewhere in New Hampshire, I forget where it was, but where that little girl nearly lost her life because their dog, their pit bull mix or something or other, just decided to attack her one day, okay? Now they have a shitload. That little girl is lucky to be alive. Her dad had to kill the dog. He wouldn't let go of his little 2-year-old girl, okay? In that instance, yes, GoFundMe is appropriate. These people are going to have huge hospital bills or whatever, okay? But I do not believe, and never will, and the first time I heard, I'm sure it happens all the time now, but the first time I heard of it was with the Brody thing, that GoFundMes should be set up when little kids die horrible deaths because of parents or caregivers' ignorance or negligence. I'm not saying that those parents or caregivers should go to jail or whatever, but I'm saying you shouldn't profit over the deaths of these little kids, okay? I was hardly the only one just disgusted when we saw that the Brodies, that a GoFundMe was set up to pay for funeral costs when the Brodies are fucking rich and whatever. They didn't set the GoFundMe up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be you. GoFundMes get set up and they make way more money than is needed for, say, funeral costs. And people were sarcastically writing, yeah, how much does it cost for a funeral for a little kid, you know? Well, that's how I feel. I think GoFundMes are appropriate in certain situations, but should not be set up to pay for funerals when little kids die horrible deaths because of the parents' negligence or ignorance, okay? God, it wouldn't surprise me if GoFundMes have been set up for people who, their kids, they don't get charged because it's an accident, who accidentally leave the kids in the car and they die a horrible death, car deaths. I wouldn't be surprised at all if GoFundMes have been set up for those parents. Seriously. And I was discussing this shit with, I'm sure GoFundMe was set up for the parents of that little girl who wandered outside and died in the freezing cold. And I was discussing this. I said to the woman at the hotel, we were talking about that, you know, because things can happen, bad things. When we got to the hotel, Omar was in that carrier, and we were there after a minute when we got there, and the guy, I'm looking around, he's helping load up our luggage, the guy who worked there, an employee, onto one of those cart things, and I'm like, Mom, where's my dog? And he had put Omar on the cart like he was luggage. Luckily, he didn't put anything on top of him, because even if he had crushed to death my dog, my mom and I still would have had to stay at that hotel. We just would have been basket cases, you know? Things happen. It would have been an accident, but he picked up my dog as he was luggage, you know. We were tired and I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know Omar was over to the side and he picked him up like he was luggage. Luckily, he put him on the top. But when we were getting ready to leave at the end, when it was winding down, I was talking to this woman I had a rapport with, because we were talking about things that happened, and then we talked about, look at that little girl who wandered outside and froze to death. Okay, so I said, and this woman she's like, I have 3 kids, and because I said, you know what, I know that people get harsh on you when you write comments online, oh, you need to be more forgiving, and the hot car deaths, and they didn't do it on purpose, and nobody's perfect, you know. And she's like, I'm not buying it. I said, how come everybody's kids don't wander outside and are able to get outside? And she's like, she's like, I have 3 kids, Laura, you need to safety-proof your house, okay? But I bet there's a GoFundMe set up for that, okay? That the little girl froze to death outside. She wandered outside in the middle of the night and was unable to get back in. It's going to pull at the heartstrings, and probably a GoFundMe setup will make way more money than is needed for so-called funeral costs for one little girl who died a horrible death from her parents' negligence of not safety-proofing their house they just moved into. Okay? Otherwise, we'd hear left and right, we only hear it once in a while, little kids being able to open doors. Because I said to her, I'm like, how come every little kid doesn't open the front door and freeze to death, Sarah? And she goes, because you make sure you safety-proof your house. You make sure that your kid can't get up in the middle of the night and open the door and wander outside, okay? So anyway, the latest thing. 3 little kids from the same family died a horrible death, suffocated to death from one of those giant ice chests, all right? Now, did the parents intentionally leave that giant death trap out there? I've heard about that before. You should not have anything outside in your yard that the little kids can hide in. They like to play hide and seek. They don't know. In this instance, these 3 little young kids, one just like a baby, 3 of them crawled into this thing to play hide and seek from their babysitter, okay? Now I have to ask myself, you don't die instantly. Those little kids did not die instantly. They don't even take up as much breath as if we're inside one of those things, okay? They didn't die instantly. They suffocated eventually, but according to what I saw on Inside Edition, the babysitter eventually found them. She looked high and low for them for 30 minutes. It didn't dawn on her to look in the ice chest for them. Okay? Get it? They were in her care, these 3 young kids. She went in to use the bathroom. They decided to play hide and seek without her knowledge. So she was out within a few minutes from the bathroom, was unable to find the children, and didn't think to look in the ice chest that was out in the yard until it was too late. And then 30 minutes later she found them dead. Now, I've read a lot of Stephen King, I've read horror novels, whatever, but the thing is, and I listen in this world, only that babysitter knows for sure that she didn't lock those kids in the ice chest. I know that's horrible to say, but everything happens in this day and age. Look what happened to Jamie Kloss. She wasn't, foolishly involved with the internet or whatever. Some psycho who had never had any problem with the law or anything decided to brutally gun down her parents and take her just because he saw her one day at the bus stop. A little 13-year-old girl who miraculously escaped him and lived to tell the tale because he got cocky and didn't think she'd ever dare try to get away. But I'm not the only one, I'm sure, who noticed that in the story, because I'm watching it, she said that she grabbed her opportunity when he said he'd be gone for a few hours, but then he wasn't gone hardly at all. He was probably testing her to see. He didn't go for a few hours. And she grabbed her opportunity to run, but they said he was already out looking for her, so he was gone minutes. He didn't go for a few hours. He was testing her to see if she'd try to get away. But she did, and she got away, and he's going to be, I hope he gets the fucking death penalty. I don't know if they have the death penalty there, but, that's just unseemly. He blew her mother away right in front of her, blew her father, and no history of anything. Oh my God. You just don't know anybody. And his parents are his dad is in shame. He's like, I can't believe my son did. He just can't believe it. Okay. Anyway, things happen. That ice chest wasn't hidden away. It was in the yard. That's negligence, ignorance on the part of those parents, okay? Not negligence, ignorance that they deserve to be prosecuted, but a GoFundMe page has been set up for pay for funeral costs. And how often do GoFundMes make way more money than intended? So basically, these parents are likely, because this really pulls at people's heartstrings, going to profit off of the death of their 3 young kids who never would have died in the first place. Get it? Were it not for the parents' ignorance, negligence in having that giant death box out in their yard, okay? Now, am I going to say those parents are horrible for not realizing that their kids could potentially want, that kids want to hide in something like that? No. But it happens all the time. And if you have 3 kids, you think in your lifetime you would have heard that you don't leave refrigerators, you don't leave you don't leave that kind of stuff that your children might be able to get into and not be able to get out. Okay? But a GoFundMe, every time I hear stuff like this, I get sick. Okay? I think, what in the world did people do for paid for funeral costs before GoFundMe came into existence? You know? I don't care. I don't think that parents whose children die horrible deaths from those parents' ignorance, negligence, not that the parents should be prosecuted, but I don't think they should be able to get 1 penny. I don't think they should be able to profit at all off of those children's deaths. They're innocent children, and I bet you anything, a GoFundMe page has been set up for that little family of that little girl who froze to death outside. Okay? And the woman at the hotel, she was young too, she has 3 kids, she agreed with me. She was like, no, I don't have any, because I said, yeah, people yell at me and others when we're harsh on these people whose children die from the parents' negligence or hot car deaths or whatnot, or swimming, you know, the thing with the Brody thing disgusted a lot of people. I 100% hold the mom responsible for her little girl's death, okay? But a GoFundMe page was set up to pay for funeral costs, and they're rich. And I don't even care if you're rich or not. GoFundMe is relatively recent. How the fuck did parents pay for funeral costs before GoFundMe conveniently came into existence, you know? I totally disagree. And you know what I mean? The babysitter didn't think to look in the giant ice chest for the children who went missing just in the few minutes that she ran into the house to use the bathroom. They're dead. Because she apparently spent 30 minutes looking everywhere and calling for them, etc., and they were slowly suffocating to death in that ice chest where they had gone in to play hide and seek from the babysitter. The parents weren't around, but they're the ones who had the giant death trap in their yard. Ignorance. Negligence, ignorance. But it's not prosecutable, but they shouldn't get to profit off of it. You understand? It might not be their fault. They shouldn't get to profit over it. Okay? Like I said, I agree with GoFundMe in a lot of instances, but not when children die horrible deaths due to parents or caregivers' negligence or ignorance. I don't. I cringed. I cringed when I heard, oh, a GoFundMe page was set up, okay? I don't feel that way about that girl who suddenly, the family dog suddenly decided to attack her, you know? The parents couldn't have predicted that. And they killed the dog. That father had to kill his dog, stab him to death to get him off his little girl, okay? And they have a shitload of hospital bills and everything. That's a different story. You get it? But children dying horrible deaths because of ignorance or negligence on the part of parents, and GoFundMe pages get set up, and those parents get to profit over off of their children's deaths that were preventable. You see where I'm coming from here? I don't think it's right. I mean, I don't think it's not going to change, but I know because I read and I'm smart. I'm hardly the only one who feels that way. Okay? We already know GoFundMe is being taken advantage of hugely, right? Selena tells me things and gets sickened over, you know, GoFundMe pages are set up for everything, right? But you know what I mean? Little kids get left alone. Simply in this instance, like she had to use the bathroom. She didn't think anything was going to happen to these 3 kids just while she's running in to use the bathroom. But the icebox, you know, these people had 3 kids, and you'd think they would, you know. But also the little girl who froze to death outside. And then every once in a while you're hearing about toddlers running down the street or whatever. That's due to parent negligence, okay? They take their eye off their kid. In this instance, that things weren't child-proof. You don't know what little kids are going to do. You don't expect them to get up in the middle of the night and go outside, of course. And I'm not saying that the parents aren't grief-stricken. I'm simply sarcastically pointing out, what in the world did people ever do to pay for funeral costs prior to GoFundMes come into existence, okay? You know, your little kid can die from your undeniable ignorance or negligence, even if not negligence, then ignorance, okay? Ignorance in the case of the giant death trap that I don't even have kids, but I'm aware enough to be heard in the news and whatnot. And then the thing with hot deaths and hot car deaths is just sickening. But hardly ever are the parents, it's all viewed as an accident. And this woman disagreed with me. I mean, she agreed with me and disagreed with people who say, she's like, no, you don't forget your kids in the car, period, okay? People are too distracted, they're whatever. But GoFundMe pages get set up for shit like that. And these parents get to profit off of their negligence or ignorance or whatnot that killed their little innocent children. And it makes me puke. I hear this story and I'm horrified. But when I heard this story, some stories like this prior to GoFundMe's being in existence, GoFundMe didn't exist back when that horrible thing happened inside the house where those 2 kids suffocated to death inside something. I forget what that was. But that was inside the house and 2 little kids suffocated to death. No, the caregivers weren't paying attention. The dad was watching football really loud. No one could hear the kids screaming for help. Again, you suffocate, you don't suffocate instantly, see? But parents get distracted and think their kids are playing over there, and meanwhile the kids are dying. And this was in some kind of chest that was inside the house. It's just like this ice chest outside the house. This was an antique thing or whatever, but anyway, their kids are dead. There was no GoFundMe page set up for pay for funeral costs for those 2 dead kids because GoFundMes didn't exist back then, see? I remember, and I know there was no GoFundMe page set up. GoFundMe is out of hand. People are taking advantage of it, and you don't have to be the one setting it up. I'm not saying the parents of these 3 dead children who died in the ice chest out there because a babysitter, supposedly, I'm not saying that she did put them in there and lock them in, but nobody would ever know if she did. Do you understand that? Things that happen in this life, more awful things than that happen, okay? No one will ever know. I know that's absolutely morbid and demonic, but too many things are morbid and demonic nowadays. And the fact is, there is no proof that that babysitter is not a psychopath and didn't put those kids in the ice chest. I'm not saying she did. I'm saying shit like that happens. See? That's all I'm saying. It's rare, but if there are no witnesses, people can be murdered, little kids can be murdered. If there's no witnesses, there's no proof. It wasn't just a horrible accident. But in this instance, the babysitter is not going to be charged with negligence because there's no law that says you can't leave little kids alone for a few minutes to run in and use the bathroom, or you know what I mean, or to whatever. But should be a wake-up call to parents everywhere. Okay? I heard years ago, I know, you don't want anything. Kids die in things, okay? There are kids that have even died in dryers, but there are things you can do. You can put locks, I guess, on dryers too. You have to child-proof your house. Kids don't know any better, and they're innocent, as me and this hotel person, this woman, discussed. She seemed real young to me, so when she said she had 3 kids, but I'm sure there are 3 young kids, you know. And if you start having kids young, then you can have 3 kids by the time you're her age. You know what I mean? I just don't think GoFundMe pages should be set up when innocent little children die undeniably as the result of their parents or their caregivers' negligence or ignorance. Okay? And I sarcastically wonder what in the world did anybody ever do to pay for funeral costs before GoFundMe came into existence. I just think it's wrong. I totally think it's wrong. Okay? Yeah, you're devastated that your little kids are now dead. And you could be poor, you could be whatever, but you shouldn't get to profit, potentially, and GoFundMe pages have no limit. The proof of that was that recent scandal with the homeless man. They wanted $10,000 and wound up with $500,000. You get it? GoFundMe pages have no limit. So you can potentially, someone can set up a GoFundMe page when your child dies from your negligence or ignorance, or their caregiver's negligence or ignorance, and you can potentially profit over your child's death. I don't think that's right. And it's likely that it will happen, because GoFundMe pages, that especially if they pull at the heartstrings, a lot of them make a lot of money, way more than is necessary, okay? But everything is GoFundMe now, everything. And I lived in an age, I grew in an age where there was no GoFundMe, so it's making me sick, you know? It's making me sick that these 3 innocent little kids who had no idea, they're just playing hide and seek from their babysitter who left them alone to use the bathroom. But she doesn't even think to look in that ice chest. Okay? They're nowhere in sight, and she's apparently calling for them and doesn't even dawn on her to look in the giant death trap until 30 minutes later when she finds the 3 of them dead. Okay? Don't tell me that in this day and age she couldn't have put them in there and killed them. I don't think she did. I'm not saying she did. I'm saying that that's how my mind works, and nobody knows for sure or whatever. Only that babysitter knows for sure that she didn't put them in there. See? Things like that happen. Babysitters kill children. People, but you can't prove it. There are no witnesses. Children are dead. Okay? But the parents shouldn't get to potentially profit over it, because they're the ones, not the babysitter, who had the fucking giant death trap in their yard, out in their yard in the first place. See? That's ignorance. It's parents not knowing any better, despite all the headlines we hear all the time about how to protect your children. See? Anyway, I strongly feel that way. I'm not saying anybody deserves to go to jail. It is a horrible tragedy, a horrible accident. But no one should get to profit off of it, potentially. Nobody. And you can ask for this much for funeral costs and make 10 times as much. It happens all the time. You get it? So you're profiting off of the death of your innocent children who died undeniably from your ignorance, if not negligence. Definitely ignorance. Because parents who have had 3 kids and still don't know how easy it is for kids, that kids are tempted by big giant things, you know what I mean? And they want to hide in them, and then you can't get out, and they showed it on Inside Edition. It latches by itself. It doesn't even, it's too heavy for kids to pick up. They can get in and not, and then you have to wonder how they get the lid up anyway, which is another suspicious thing. Years ago when those kids died in that chest inside the house, there were really people saying, how the fuck did those little kids lift it? It's really, I had one of those chests. They shouldn't exist anymore. There's no safety mechanism to get out. You're locked in there. It's a death trap. But they were suspicious. This guy was like, those are really heavy. I don't believe a 7- and 9-year-old could have lifted it up by themselves. And, but people always have conspiracies and think this, that, or whatever. But on Inside Edition, they show the Genesis, and the woman on this, she's like, the host, it's like it's really heavy, you know, but it latches automatically once the thing goes down. But you still have to wonder how these young kids got it open in the first place, unless it was left open. And then they still have to close it down on them. I don't know. All I'm saying is, in this day and age, you can't rule anything out, and nobody but that babysitter knows for sure what happened. The kids are dead. How do you know the babysitter didn't put them in there? Kill them. She'd have no motive and no reason. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that nobody, there shouldn't be GoFundMe, and it's not going to change, but it's not right for funeral costs. So what did people do about funeral costs before GoFundMe existed? They managed somehow, didn't they? Didn't they? Okay? But nowadays, it's said for funeral costs, but then it makes so much more money a lot of the time, especially if it's something like this that really pulls at someone's heartstrings. 3 kids dead in the freezer. That was a death trap out in the backyard that they wanted to play hide and seek in from their babysitter, who spent 30 minutes looking for them when they went missing, when she just went in to use the bathroom and left them alone, and wasn't able to find them until it was too late. Because you don't die instantly in something like that. There's air in there. You don't die instantly. I don't know how long it takes you to die, but now I'm saying all this without reading comments. I can guarantee you there are people voicing my exact sentiments to the T. They are saying exactly what I'm saying right now, even down to, you know, if they know about GoFundMe, like, you shouldn't profit. You shouldn't even be able to have the opportunity, even the slightest chance, to profit off of the death of your children that was undeniably a result of your ignorance, if not outright negligence. The end.